Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of What If Civilization Started Over. Now, I would just like to apologize for the big delay. I think by the time this video will have been published, it will have been over 2 weeks since the last episode came out. I just got sick and wasn't able to record. I just, did not feel great. So, hopefully, I'll be able to catch up, make a few new videos, and keep this series going. But without further waiting, let's just get straight into things. As now, the first thing we see that happens is in the Orange Country, one of our oldest countries on the map, one of the stronger countries, one of the more populated countries, and now it's going to have an event. So as we see, take a look at the map with some of the cities and early trade routes. As you can see, this trade route up in the north only is in the north of the Orange Country and connects to all these other countries, but the south of the country wasn't really getting represented, they felt like. So the southern bits of the country decided that they're just going to break away and do their own thing because they believe that they are being unfairly treated and just not recognized in diplomacy and in really a lot of aspects of the country. So, of course, early on, the Orange Country, not wanting to lose a lot of their population down in these major cities, they immediately move in. They seize one of these major cities. They seize a big population area over here before they're kind of halted in their advances. We see the resistance, the rebellion, kind of making a move up through the middle, kind of right here. Now, the thing about these guys, they don't want to fight, but seeing the orange guys, they're trying to reclaim their land, they're being forced to fight back. As we see the Orange Country beginning to push further in on this way weaker country. As they move in on on one of their major cities, they capture the land taken by the rebellion force, and they begin moving in towards the capital at a rapid rate. However, during the rebellion, we see some major regions beginning to break away from this smaller government that formed. They start breaking into their own government, seeing the failure that this kind of, country was. They're not succeeding in any of their goals of beating the orange team and becoming their own thing. They're currently getting destroyed and occupied, and that's shown by the Orange Country. They fully circle in the capital from all outside relations as they begin pushing further south into this country. Approaching the capture of the remaining lands, a few more territories break away, and this government, which loses their capital to its own government, all of these regions vow for peace, and the Orange government decides that, kind of out of spite, if you want to think of it like that, they annex the country that originally broke away, will end up actually allowing the independence of all these other nations, not wanting to further anger the population in the region. And so now the Orange Country is kind of able to repair their reputation a bit, getting rid of the rebellion force and having peaceful negotiations with the other people. In fact, so much so, trying to make themselves appear as the good guy, they begin the construction, or I guess the just establishment of an official trading system with these countries. It goes into this pink country's capital before branching out to these twos. These two countries, the pink and purple one, don't wish to be involved, as this purple one, they branch up and meet up with this capital city. And so now the entire purpose of the rebellion is basically for nothing, as we see a whole trade system integrating into the Southern Orange country. Furthermore, on the topics of countries splitting apart, we see this blue country, which has been around for a while, kind of neutral. We see a peaceful splitting between this northern region and the rest of the country, as we see this new country establishing their capital in this little enclave, or this little bit that dips down that territory, just wanting to be part of this region. So now we've seen a few breakaways. How about we see some combining? We haven't seen a major war in a while, but tensions are going to grow in Europe as we see the Red Country, Rome, whatever you want to call it, begin a daring mission into Sicily, beginning to conquer the nation, wanting, without really any reason, they begin to move their forces into there. They move in, they take Sardinia, and then they launch forces taking from the other side, completely surrounding the capital, and then occupying Sicily. Now, the true intentions behind the conquest, of Sicily are not yet known to the general kind of people, but a few countries begin to get concerned. For example, lime green France, Carthage, these two, because they're both kind of weak, the purple country, Turkey, basically anyone who isn't the red country begins to worry about what is truly happening with the conquest of that country of Sicily. However, that's not where the conquest ends. We see red forces beginning to move into the northern Iberian purple team, a country who has been especially neutral. They immediately begin by cutting off any sea access into the Mediterranean, preventing Carthage from supplying them, as they suspected they did with Sicily. They continue their advances up along the lime green border, methodically and systematically cutting off the supply chain from the people in the purple country, encircling large amounts of their population as they cut off the capital from the rest of the nation. We see Rome officially occupying this area, but then we see some intervention. We see a daring adventure from lime green France. They rush in to occupy the remaining part of the nation to secure the remaining population in the capital. This does upset Rome, but these two countries being relatively equally matched, with the lime green arguably being a bit higher up. So now we see Rome beginning to fully integrate the lands that they occupied, as we also see the lime green country integrating the part of the nation that they took, as tensions at an all-time high in Europe, with Rome's kind of unprecedented and uncalled for conquest of the two nations, Sicily and the Purple Iberian state. Now, with panic and kind of worry settling over the atmosphere in Europe, we see the establishment of our first kind of formal alliance or treaty. We see the lime green agreeing to protect the kind of, I don't know what color, that Iberia that broke away from Carthage. They agreed to protect the new Bosnian state, and and Carthage also agrees to protect all of these countries, as we see our first kind of official formal alliance, or treaty forming, as kind of a defensive pact against Rome. So now I would just like to bring something to our attention. I did mention kind of how lime green is more powerful than Rome. So now I would kind of like to go over some power rankings. Who are the powers of this world? In first place, definitely Pink Arabia, definitely the first country. In second, it's the Danes, or the kind of Scandinavian Empire. In third, it's these guys, the Iran. In fourth, even with the rebellions, it's Orange. In fifth, we have this yellow country in the Middle East. In sixth, we have lime green, as I mentioned. In seventh, we have Turkey. In eighth, we have the Dutch. In ninth, I would say it's pretty close, but I would put Rome ahead at ninth. And then 10th would be Carthage. And it's kind of very close between Rome, Carthage, and then the Cyan team. All of these guys are very equally matched, and in a fight, it would probably be like World War One, trench fighting, stalemate for years. Now, an area of interest, as we just mentioned, the kind of Scandinavian Denmark Empire is the second strongest country, arguably, and they have a lot of territory. Now, not wanting to waste forces potentially fighting a rebellion, instead, they go ahead and with Ireland, they decide to jump the gun and cut out the middleman of fighting a rebellion by simply offering different territories and provinces their own independence. First, we see the release of this kind of Eastern Irish nation, as we see further a total of 6 countries released from the rule of the Danish Empire peacefully in Ireland, as all seems well in the area for now. Now we move over to Asia, where we see China beginning to make explorations this way, wanting to learn more about the area, wanting to learn more about the land around them as they discover this lake, a very big lake. Over on this side of the world, we see a little bit more expansion up this way, but we see this kind of Belarusian country, the Orange country, Georgia. They begin to make explorations this way, wanting to learn more about the land this way, as we see some expansions into this kind of desert area, but it gets pretty hot, and so they stick up here, up north, as they expand, and suddenly they discover that there's all this land between them and the Asian countries, which once before they thought the only way to get there was all the way around. But now a massive breakthrough has just been made for the entire world. However, before there can be joy in the world, there's got to be an equal force. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And in one of the countries that kind of fronted everything in Asia, in the pink Iran, we see their massive, overly large nation across various different landscapes coming back to bite them, as we see many territories breaking away. We see all but their capital or their major city breaking away, as we see a bunch of countries, 6 new nations breaking away from the pink country, as we see a major kind of empire that has lasted for a while falling into ruins as they lose all sea access to people who are just tired of whatever in this government. They just don't like it, and so now it has collapsed and fallen into disarray, and it's likely never going to be the same again. They do retain some of their military strength, but right now it's in shambles all across these different nations, so they won't be able to do anything. So now we've all heard the saying that records were meant to be broken. Well, this yellow country is clearly taking that very seriously, except they don't really have a record they're trying to break. They're just trying to grow. And with one of their neighbors next to them being relatively weak and unprotected, they are going to begin to move forces in from the north above the capital, pushing in along every angle of the border, trying to occupy this green nation. Now, as we're seeing the kind of conquest easily of this green country, we see two smaller nations break away that the yellow country just doesn't want to interfere with. They're just like, we're going to let you chill. But as they're moving in on the capital, the pink country is like, yo, stop this. You don't have any reason to be attacking them. Stop it. And with the yellow country being massively intimidated by the pink country, they are forced to stop. We see the green country miraculously surviving this extreme offensive from the yellow country. However, they lose basically all of their territory and have two new nations forming on either side of them that don't particularly like them. So even though they survived this first one, they may have survived the battle, they're not going to survive the overall war. Now, after all of that, we've seen some large countries losing land, we've seen some countries collapsing, and we've seen some scares and tensions rising in Europe. That will do it for episode 5 of What If Civilization Started Over. Again, if you have any suggestions and if you like the series, like and comment, subscribe, and suggestions, put them down in the comments. I try and implement as many as possible, and I'll credit you. This is kind of a last minute thing. I just thought about it, but since we saw a lot of changes between beginning and end of episode, I just wanted to update really quickly the rankings. I'm going to go through this real quick, so if you care, listen. If not, this is going to be all for the video. So in first, it is still the Arabian country. In second, it is still Denmark. Now in third, we have Orange, the Orange country. In fourth, we have the Middle Eastern Yellow country. In fifth is the Lime Green country. In sixth, we have the Turkish country. In seventh, Rome has also moved up some spots, moving the Dutch down to eighth, Carthage in ninth, and now moving into our top 10 is Cyan with Sweden and Bulgaria, the gray country, just missing out, and then it's kind of a big gap down to the rest of them, so I'm not even going to mention them. So yeah, that'll do it for episode 5 of What If Civilization Started Over, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.